All right. Our next speaker is Molly Siler, who will be presenting on answer set encoding for narrative planning with theory of mind. So please join me in welcoming Molly.
Hi, I'm Molly Siler, and I'm presenting the aforementioned paper with my advisor, Dr. Stephen Ware at the University of Kentucky Narrative Intelligence Lab. To start, I'll briefly summarize what's new in the paper. Oops. First, we present a way to generate narrative plans with declarative programming. We are not the only ones who have done so. Chinmaya Dabral and Chris Bartons presented a paper on the subject here at AIIDE a few years ago. But our program incorporates a more recent model used by the Saber Narrative Planner that you heard about earlier, where story characters can recursively reason about each other's beliefs. There's also the standing question of, given that narrative planning can be done with declarative programming, is it still worth it to write planners in traditional imperative languages? On one hand, compared to Saber, our declarative approach resulted in a much smaller and more easily modifiable codebase. On the other hand, Saber has powerful search heuristics, and we will present some benchmarks showing that it still beats our new planner in terms of speed. Now I'll go into some more specifics about the planning approach. The underlying technology to our planner is answer set programming, which I'll abbreviate from here on as ASP. As a very brief summary of ASP, an answer set program consists of rules with a head to the left of the operator and a body to the right, meaning that the head should be derived when the body is true. A rule can also be just a head, in which case it's a simple assertion of truth. An answer set is a solution to an answer set program consisting of all the literals that are derived. We can also have non-deterministic choices, in which case we could get multiple answer sets as well. Now on to our system itself. It takes a planning problem as input, generates and validates candidate plans using an ASP solver, and then each answer set output by the solver will map to a plan. The input narrative planning problem defines the story world using several types of elements. Characters are entities that it can have beliefs and goals and act in the story world. Fluents are variables that describe the state of the world. For instance, we might have a fluent that tracks a character's location. The initial state determines the starting values of these fluents. In the original Saber planner, this requires the user to choose the starting values individually for every fluent, but we generalize this in our ASP planner. The user can provide a formula restricting the initial state as little or as much as they want, such as in this example, which includes a disjunction of possible fluent assignments for the teen's starting location. In that case, the planner is free to choose whichever value is most convenient for finding a solution. Actions are the building blocks of plans. Like in classical planning, they have preconditions and effects, but in narrative planning, they also define the characters who take the action, as well as a formula for when other characters observe the action happening and update their beliefs accordingly. Given all this domain-specific information, it's used alongside a set of domain-independent ASP rules that we defined to generate a narrative plan. The paper will walk through some ASP code fragments. I'm consciously choosing not to do the same in this talk as it would take up too much of our allotted time, but I'll give a high-level conceptual overview instead. Our system uses the ASP solver Klingo. With older ASP systems, if you wanted to do planning, you needed to know a bound on the maximum plan size before running the solver, or else you'd have to start over from scratch with a higher bound if your first guess didn't work out. Well, modern versions of Klingo have a feature called multi-shot solving that lets us incrementally add to an answer set program while still saving the grounding and optimization work that the solver did on previous runs. This makes it easy to write a system that can search for plans of unknown length. We can increase the maximum length by one at a time without previous attempts going to waste. When I say length of a plan, in a classical planning context, that usually means the number of actions in an executed plan. And those do count here, but when we add a unit to the length, we can also use that unit of length for character plans, which are needed when a character takes an action in order to help show that the character is motivated to take the action because it could lead to a goal for that character. As well as triggers, a Saber feature where we can have events that happen automatically when their preconditions are met. The ASP solver is free to divide up the plan units among these types as needed, following certain constraints, such as only using an action where there are no pending triggers to resolve. Like Saber, our ASP planner allows characters to have possibly incorrect beliefs around the world, like the mom believes the teen's at school when the teen is actually at home. Furthermore, we can have multiple layers of character belief, such as the mom believes the teen believes that the mom is at work when the mom is actually at a party. For any given unit of the plan, our ASP encoding represents beliefs using a graph of states. We always have what we'll call the base state, which is what the story world is truly like. If a character's beliefs are different from the true state, we have a separate state representing the beliefs, and an edge in the state graph labeled with the character who holds the beliefs. One character's beliefs about another character's beliefs can be represented by another edge from the first character's belief state, and so on. And then a looping edge from a belief state to itself means that the character's beliefs match the true value is in that state. An action can update some or all of the states depending on which characters observe it. So in this example, if the mom leaves the party to go to the store, the state information is copied, except the mom's new location is reflected in the base state, as well as in the mom's beliefs since she observed herself taking that action. But the change is not reflected in the mom's beliefs about the teen's beliefs because the mom doesn't believe that the teen saw her moving. Those are some of the important features of the ASP planner. After it invokes the Klingo solver, we get an answer set that encodes the solution and all the information that was used to construct it. First is the executed plan, the sequence of actions making up the generated story. Next are the character plans that are generated to explain why characters acted the way they did. And finally, an initial state of the world from which all the plans are valid. If the user left the initial state only partially specified, at this point, the missing fluent values will be decided and we'll get a fully specified version of the initial state. There are also a lot of auxiliary literals that aren't needed for the output, but were important to the reasoning process, like the states of the world between each action. But the three components I listed here can be parsed to derive the complete solution to the narrative planning problem. Now I'll discuss some benchmarks where we compared the speed of the ASP planner with the original Saber. Saber has an established suite of benchmark problems, so we parsed each of these into an ASP representation to run our planner. There were some problems where the grounding was too large for the ASP solver Klingo to handle. Klingo has a built-in limit on the number of IDs that can be assigned to objects, and these problems exceeded that. For the remaining problems, we ran them as benchmarks and collected planner runtimes and averaged them over 10 trials. For Klingo's and Saber's default configurations, Saber was faster on most of the problems. We also tried different heuristics and search strategies in Saber, and different built-in configurations from Klingo, and compared the runtimes for the best configurations of each. And it turned out the best configuration for Saber on a given problem was always faster than the best ASP configuration. With the best configurations, the problem that our planner solved, the problem solved the fastest overall by our planner. It took less than a second, while the problem solved slowest overall by our planner took about 14 hours on average, and the median problem took about 10 minutes. These were all orders of magnitude slower than the best Saber configuration, but our planner often solved them on a time scale where if a researcher were using our code to try out a new story space, they could run a test problem during a coffee break and get the results when they come back. So in conclusion, while I can't rule out someone someday writing an ASP narrative planner that's competitive in terms of speed, this exercise shows that all the research that goes into speeding up conventional narrative planners like Saber is not wasted effort. Still, our ASP planner is simpler in terms of the code base. There's a bit over 100 unground rules in the ASP code, whereas Saber has well over 100 classes. This should offer an easier starting point for rapid prototyping of new types of narrative planning. For instance, It was easy to add support for a partially specified initial state, which would have been much more difficult to do in the original Saber. This suggests the promising way forward is a hybrid system that uses the Saber framework for search, but outsources the representation and reasoning about states to ASP, hopefully achieving a balance of speed and flexibility. Thank you for coming to our talk. If you want to download our code from the artifact evaluation, you can use the web address or QR code that's on the screen right now. There's also a link in the paper if you don't catch it right now. And when you get to this page, scroll to the 2025 section. Thank you.
Thank you. Molly actually corrected the efficiency in my presentation of the paper up front. In fact, this is the version that we're presenting that's artifact evaluated and kind of information as such on the schedule for the conference. I'll actually take speaker moderator prerogative like after the first question. At part of the end, when you're saying that this is like leading to a more concise and more flexible framework, do you think that translates to maybe potentially just like ease of all?
To clarify, do you mean ease of authorship of like new types of new narrative planning paradigms? That's one thing that we had in mind. Or what did you have in mind for authoring? Oh, I see. Yeah. To start, I just sort of hacked the parser from the original Saber in order to render domains from that format into an ASP format. But I am planning on in the future on making a publicly available parser that just allows you to more easily write things directly in ASP, and especially in terms of I think what you're getting at is if somebody wants to write a very flexible, broad specification of a problem instead of specifying the exact initial state, then this will save them a lot of time because they only have to write just a high-level formula of the things they want instead of defining a precise story world from which the plan may or may not work.
I might know or update where mom and have to like totally that's something where like favorite things are very early. It's like when you have to commit to like consistent like we have every aspect of the life, but like going out like having a kind of under specified initial you also have a first specified.
Yeah. So you can, when defining a problem with this planner, you can also leave initial character beliefs unspecified. The planner will fill them in. This doesn't allow us to have fully non-deterministic character beliefs wherein a character within one story is considering multiple possibilities at once. Actually, that's a challenging problem that I believe Gage is going to talk about in the doctoral consortium presentations later. But yeah, I think that this is the start of one pathway that could make it easier to implement that. All right.
Like ASP narrative planner with work in the ICOP community on like top K diversity plans. So like in those instances, you are asking the planner to give you not just give you like the top K plans that you can find, but also to ensure that the like structural features of those plans are sufficiently different from kind of like semantic position. you feel like you could use this for that kind of work?
I'd be actually very interested if somebody with more ASP experience than I am might be able to discuss that with me because yeah, I'd love to be able to generate more diverse plans, and I have some other ASP related projects as well where getting homogeneous solutions where I'm trying to do procedural generation, it has been a road bump for me. So yeah, that's a really good problem that I hope we can make progress on. Yeah. Thank you.